Did you know the operating system on your computer may be watching almost everything you do right now? It can track every app you open, every website you visit, and how you use your system each day, often without clear consent. Today, more than 1.4 billion people use Windows 10 and Windows 11 worldwide. On hundreds of millions of those devices, a system called Windows Telemetry runs quietly in the background. It continuously collects detailed information about how your computer is used. This data can include app activity, browsing behavior, system errors, typing patterns, and even how long specific windows stay open. Most users have no idea this is happening on their own machines. Here is the part that should concern you. If you're using Windows Home Edition, you cannot fully turn this data collection off, no matter what settings you change. This is not speculation or a conspiracy. Microsoft calls it Windows Diagnostic Data Collection, and it has been mandatory since the launch of Windows 10 in July 2015. What privacy researchers and European regulators later uncovered raised serious concerns about how much data is collected and how little control users truly have. By the end of this video, you will clearly understand what data Microsoft collects from your computer, where that information goes, who can access it, and why most users cannot disable it completely. You will also learn about one hidden setting in Windows that can reduce, though not eliminate, the amount of data sent back to Microsoft every single day. When Microsoft launched Windows 10 in July 2015, the company introduced a significantly expanded telemetry system compared to earlier Windows versions. Previously, data collection programs like the Customer Experience Improvement Program and Windows Error Reporting were completely optional. Users could disable every form of data transmission if they wanted. Windows 10 changed that fundamental relationship between user and operating system. Microsoft now describes telemetry as essential diagnostic data needed to keep Windows secure, up-to-date, and running smoothly. The company claims it collects device performance metrics, compatibility information, error logs, and usage patterns to identify bugs before they affect millions of users. According to Microsoft official documentation, this data helps the company understand which hardware configurations are most common, which features are being used, which drivers are causing crashes, and which security threats are emerging in real time. The system operates through a background service called the Connected User Experiences and Telemetry Service, also known as DiagTrack. For enterprise customers paying for Windows 10 enterprise licenses, Microsoft offers a security level that minimizes telemetry to critical security data only. But for the hundreds of millions of people running Windows Home and Pro, the minimum setting is required, previously called basic, and that required level is not optional. What researchers actually found: in August 2016, the Electronic Frontier Foundation published a detailed technical analysis of Windows 10 telemetry practices. What they found contradicted Microsoft reassurances about user control and privacy. The EFF discovered that even with telemetry set to its lowest allowable level on Home and Pro editions, Windows continued transmitting data to Microsoft servers. Users could disable certain settings, but that was no guarantee the computer would stop talking to Microsoft. When researchers monitored network traffic from fresh Windows 10 installations, they documented persistent connections to Microsoft domains regardless of privacy settings. Microsoft insisted it aggregates and anonymizes telemetry data, but refused to explain exactly how that anonymization works. The company also would not specify how long diagnostic data is retained, offering only vague timeframes instead of concrete retention policies. Even more troubling, Microsoft stated that Windows Update would not function properly if users were allowed to turn telemetry down to its absolute lowest level. In other words, Microsoft was holding security updates hostage to force continued data collection. Dutch data protection authorities conducted their own investigation in 2017 and reached a damning conclusion. Microsoft was not telling Windows 10 Home and Pro users which personal data it collects, how that data is used, or providing any mechanism for users to give informed consent. A 2018 Data Protection Impact Assessment commissioned by the Dutch government revealed that Microsoft collects and stores personal data about the behavior of individual users, not just anonymous aggregate statistics. The report identified 7 distinct purposes Microsoft uses diagnostic data for, plus any other purposes Microsoft deems compatible, because Microsoft alone determines those purposes and the retention period, which can range from 30 days to 18 months or longer. Microsoft acts as a data controller, not merely a data processor. Security researchers analyzing Windows telemetry discovered that diagnostic data is managed through configuration files stored locally on your PC. These files, located in hidden system directories like program data, \Microsoft, \diagnosis, \downloaded settings, are controlled entirely by Microsoft and updated remotely. You probably think you control what runs on your own computer. But Microsoft can change what data gets collected and when, without asking permission, through these remotely managed configuration files. By August 2019, Ireland Data Protection Commission, the lead GDPR authority for Microsoft in the European Union, launched a formal investigation into Windows 10 telemetry. The investigation was triggered by a request from the Netherlands data protection authorities, who identified new, potentially unlawful uses of personal data harvesting during Windows 10 setup. This came despite changes Microsoft made to its data collection practices in April 2018, after earlier warnings that Windows 10 telemetry breached EU privacy laws. Under the General Data Protection Regulation, companies must have a clear legal basis for processing personal data, provide transparent information about what they collect, and obtain meaningful user consent. The Dutch authorities found that Microsoft failed all 3 requirements for Home and Pro users. In July 2019, Dutch investigators released findings warning that government employees should not use Microsoft Office due to telemetry practices that violated GDPR principles of data minimization and purpose limitation. The German state of Hesse banned Office 365 from schools earlier that same year over identical privacy concerns. Even after Microsoft claimed to address earlier complaints, Dutch regulators discovered the company was still remotely collecting other data from users beyond what had been disclosed. Microsoft faced potential fines of up to 4% of global revenue if found guilty of GDPR infringements. That provision exists because Europe's privacy framework recognizes a fundamental principle that users must have real control over their personal information. Windows telemetry, mandatory and impossible to disable on consumer editions, violates that principle at its core. Imagine a journalist working on a sensitive investigation into government corruption. She uses Windows 10 Home on her personal laptop. Every application she opens, every document she accesses, every search query she types can generate telemetry events that get transmitted to Microsoft servers. She has no way to verify what specific data points are being collected, because Microsoft controls the collection logic remotely and does not publish complete technical specifications. If that journalist is ever subjected to legal pressure or surveillance, the data Microsoft holds could reveal her sources, her research timeline, and the scope of her investigation before it is published. Consider a person going through a difficult divorce who shares a computer with their spouse. Windows telemetry can log which applications run, when they run, and for how long. That usage data, if accessed by a malicious ex-partner with physical access or remote access tools, could expose private communications, financial planning, or new living arrangements. The telemetry database files stored locally on Windows devices have been documented by researchers examining system directories and registry paths. While newer Windows versions may have changed how this data is structured, the fundamental issue remains that sensitive behavioral information sits on your hard drive, protected only by your Windows login. Or imagine a small medical practice using Windows 10 Pro on Office computers. Patient intake forms, insurance records, and diagnostic notes, all of these workflows generate application telemetry. Microsoft-owned documentation acknowledges that while the company tries to avoid collecting personal information, it can happen. For healthcare providers bound by regulations like high PANICS in the United States, that ambiguity creates serious compliance risk. They cannot guarantee patient data privacy if they cannot control what their operating system transmits. After sustained criticism from privacy advocates and regulators, Microsoft made changes to Windows telemetry settings. The Windows 10 Creators Update in April 2017 introduced a new privacy setup screen with clearer communication about data collection. The company published detailed documentation listing the types of diagnostic data collected at the basic telemetry level. Microsoft reduced the number of telemetry tiers from 3 to 2, eliminating the enhanced option and leaving only required and optional. For enterprise customers with the right licenses, Windows now offers a diagnostic data off setting that stops most telemetry collection. But none of these changes addressed the core problem. Windows Home and Pro users still cannot disable telemetry entirely. The minimum required setting remains mandatory, and Microsoft has explicitly stated that turning off telemetry would break Windows Update functionality. Even users who follow registry modification guides to set the allowed telemetry value to 0 find that Windows ignores the setting on Home Edition. Group policy options that would allow complete disablement are locked to Enterprise and Education editions only. Security researchers have documented that Windows continues to maintain background connections to Microsoft telemetry servers, even when users believe they have minimized data collection. The Electronic Frontier Foundation tested this repeatedly and confirmed ongoing data transmission regardless of user settings on non-enterprise editions. In December 2025, Microsoft removed the ability for Windows 10 users to pause updates, forcing even more users into mandatory update cycles that depend on telemetry being enabled. This represents a further erosion of user control. Your operating system is now designed to resist your instructions if those instructions conflict with Microsoft data collection requirements. If you're running Windows 11 Home or Windows 10 Home, your options are limited but not zero. Go to Settings, then Privacy and Security, then Diagnostics and Feedback. Under Diagnostic Data, make sure the toggle is set to Send Required Diagnostic Data Only, not Optional. This will not stop telemetry, but it will reduce the volume. Scroll down in that same menu and turn off everything under Tailored Experiences. Disable the View Diagnostic Data and Delete Diagnostic Data options if you want to clear what is already stored locally. Next, go to Settings, Privacy and Security, General, and turn off all personalization options, including Let Apps Show Me Personalized Ads and Let Websites Provide Locally Relevant Content. If you're running Windows 11 Pro or Windows 10 Pro, you have one additional option. Press Windows key plus R, type gpedit.msc, and press Enter to open the Group Policy Editor. Navigate to Computer Configuration, Administrative Templates, Windows Components, Data Collection, and Preview Builds. Double-click Allow Diagnostic Data, set it to Enabled, then choose the lowest number available in the dropdown, which is 1 for Basic on Pro editions. Click Apply and OK. Then open a command prompt and run gp-update/force to apply the change immediately. For advanced users comfortable editing the Windows registry, you can create or modify a key to enforce minimal telemetry. Press Windows key plus R, type Regedit, press Enter, and navigate to HKI_local _machine /software /policies /Microsoft /Windows /data collection. If the data collection key does not exist, create it. Inside that key, create or modify a adored value named Allow Telemetry and set it to 1. Setting it to 0 will be ignored on Home and Pro editions. Restart your computer after making registry changes. These steps reduce telemetry but do not eliminate it. Only Enterprise and Education editions with the right group policy configuration can disable diagnostic data entirely. Your operating system does not just work for you anymore. It works for the company that built it. Windows telemetry represents a fundamental shift in the relationship between user and software, where control has moved from the person who owns the device to the corporation that licenses the code. Privacy is not about having something to hide. Privacy is about having the right to decide what you share, with whom, and under what conditions. Microsoft took that choice away from hundreds of millions of Windows Home and Pro users and made data collection a requirement for receiving security updates. Now you have two options. Option 1, go into your Windows settings right now and apply every reduction step you just learned. Option 2, share this video with someone you know who uses Windows and has no idea this is happening every day on their computer. Drop a comment below and tell me which option you chose. That act of writing it down makes you more likely to follow through. Next week, I am investigating another tech giant data collection practice that operates in the background of a service that over 2 billion people use daily. If you want to know what your devices are really doing, subscribe so you do not miss it. The tools you trust the most are often the ones watching you the closest. Leave a like, circulate this video within your network, and subscribe to ensure you remain ahead of every major tech transformation.